family. Welcome to Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. I'm your host, Gary Thurman. Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you're watching us on YouTube, listening to us on the radio, seeing us on all the social media platforms out there, I cannot say thank you enough for your loyalty. We're getting a lot of calls in every single week from the radio, from social media posts, and it's just so much fun for us to come in here and basically give you guys an education forum. That's all we're trying to do, is just educate you on some different things that are going on out there in the world, especially when it comes to retirement planning. And gentlemen, today, this is one of those things. This shows it's not going to be exciting. We're going to be looking at a lot of graphs and numbers and charts and all that other stuff. But one of the major concerns, and I did this research for the Chattanooga area and the Knoxville area, which we have offices in both. One of the major concerns for pre-retirees is rising healthcare costs and long-term care needs. And Bobby, it's getting to the point where, we always talk about the number one fear in America is running out of money, and that's not going to change. That's right. Not going to change. But, we got some big things going on right now with longevity risk and stuff like that. So, Bobby Futch, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. Let's just jump right in, man. Let's explain to everybody out there right now, what is longevity risk?
It's a big one, and you mentioned the fear of running out of money.
Yeah.
And that stems from one of two things, and one of those is longevity risk. It's a great thing in our country now that people are living longer. Mm-hmm. When Social Security started way back when, people were living in their 60s pretty regularly. Now we plan for everyone to live into their 90s.
Crazy.
Yeah. Almost 3 decades more. And we're seeing people do it more often all the time.
Yeah.
And that's part of it, is that longevity risk means your money has to last a lot longer than it used to have to.
But with longevity risk, a lot of other things come into play. Mm-hmm. The income you just talked about, you got more opportunities to get sick. You better be on the right Medicare plan. Mm-hmm. You got to think about inflation. You got to think about future taxes. So many things tie into this, Tanner. But, Medicare, it's a huge topic of conversation right now, especially now that the big, beautiful bill just got passed. And I'd kind of like to do just a little overview of some things that are coming up with Medicare that people should be aware of. And listen, folks, anytime you want to get some more information about Medicare, all you have to do is text Medicare to 877-706-7526. Again, text the word Medicare, 877-706-7526. You'll get Tanner's guide on the 2025 Medicare plan. So don't forget that phone number. But Tanner, let's just do a quick recap. The big, beautiful bill, it's made a lot of changes.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, we're still in the meat of it right now. So really there's not too much that has definitively changed just yet. So it's really hard to talk about anything that has completely changed yet, because it hasn't just yet. But we're going to start seeing some things rolled out this fall. We are this year coming up to the 2025 where let's back up a few years first off. Okay. We have a big, beautiful bill that passed this year, right? Back in 2022, we had the Inflation Reduction Act that was also passed, right? That was the previous administration. That also had a 7-year rollout with Part D drug reform within Medicare, right?
Okay.
I'm not going to get into the meat of a 7-year rollout, right?
No.
But this year's key feature was that capped prescription drug costs at $2,000, right? Which is great, because a lot of people that are retirees are on fixed incomes. We can get down into the depths of it later on in the show, but what that's done is it's helped people save money on that side of it, right? Next year's rollout has to do with Part B and D drugs, essentially the name brand drugs that you may see that have maybe songs out there. They have catches that you're watching TV, right?
Yeah.
And you have 10 prescription drugs that Medicare and the government are negotiating with Big Pharma to decrease the cost of, right?
And they're pretty widely used drugs, right? It could have
very widely used.
Yeah,
very widely used. And some of them are drugs that, unfortunately, there's patents on them, right? So generics haven't been made yet, which inflates the cost of them. Big Pharma calls that, they're recouping their research and development for that drug, right? But what they're trying to do is negotiate those prices. Those are supposed to come out later this fall on exactly what those numbers look like for those medications. There could be good and bad to that.
We don't know
everything, right? Because whenever we have something change, insurance carriers also can react to it. So I always talk about healthcare as a seesaw battle, right? Mm-hmm. Back and forth. So really what you need to be able to do is have somebody that stays on top of this for you, that helps you prepare, because that's the biggest thing, because you have to be able to deviate sometimes when a plan may seem good, but changes within the healthcare world end up impacting your plan.
Yeah, and Bobby, I'm going to go to you. I know when you guys sat down with clients here at Guardian, yes, we're going to talk about income planning. How does that reflect on Medicare planning? Because there's a little word out there called IRMA that, I mean, if isn't it so cool that you and Tim can walk down the hallway and go to Tanner and go, hey, here's the income plan we're creating. What's that going to do to impact their Medicare costs? The taxes maybe on Medicare. It all goes in together. That's why you have to have a plan for it all.
That's right, and that's why it's so powerful to have Tanner here in office, that he knows so much about this, because we were in a meeting the other day. Tanner was in a financial planning meeting, and they just had some questions, and he taught me something new, right? I'm not a spring chicken in this anymore. I've been doing it almost 17 years, and I went, wow, I didn't know that, right? And it changes all the time. It's hard to keep track of it. But to your point, they go hand in hand, because if you put together an income plan that doesn't think about, healthcare costs in general or premiums that you're going to pay for that, we could do great planning and you end up being in a worse spot because your healthcare premiums have skyrocketed because your income increases, which, I mean, it is good. We all want the most income in retirement. But you got to plan for that, because if we put a budget together and then your healthcare costs double or triple, it could be pretty catastrophic to that plan.
It can. And again, folks, if you're listening or watching us out there, to get your Medicare guide, text the word Medicare, 877-706-7526, 877-706-PLAN, P-L-A-N. Text the word Medicare, and you'll get that guide sent right out to you. Bobby just brought up something, Tanner, that I think's relevant, and I think it's a big misunderstanding in Chattanooga, in Knoxville, in California. I think people don't understand that Medicare does not cover everything. And I think this is something, I mean, I know we beat this up, gentlemen, but people need to know that Medicare is not a one-size-fit-all. It doesn't cover all your health care costs.
Yeah, and it goes back to right when we opened up the segment, right, where you talked about this show's not going to be sexy whatsoever, right? This is my life all day, every day is healthcare planning, right? It isn't sexy. Nobody really wants to sit down and say, I want to talk about my healthcare plan. I want to go into the depths of it and really try to find a way to save money. Typically because maybe we're healthy, right? And you don't need it. And so somebody once told me that really healthcare isn't designed for us on our best days. It's designed for us on our worst, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's kind of the last thing we think about. Maybe it's too late and we've already had health issues, and now we may not be able to do as much planning at that time. But the biggest thing there is, like you just said, always making sure that you're on top of this is huge, because these types of regulations, these costs can change year in and year out. We're seeing it in real time. I mean, we're even seeing it, and we'll talk about it in the next segment about the Department of Justice, this healthcare fraud scheme that came about right recently in the last few months. But it's really good to be able to lean into somebody. And here's the cool thing: what's the cost to you? It's just a little bit of your time. That's all it is.
That's all it is. That's what's amazing. So I mean, we know though that, Bobby, in the right situation, if you go from facility to facility, Medicare will cover some cost if you happen to have to go into some kind of long-term care facility, but we're only looking at 90 days. And I know we're going to dig deep into this in the next segment, but I think people need to start paying attention to healthcare costs.
I always tell people that ask, is long-term care covered in Medicare? Yeah, kind of. It is, but it's very limited, and it's to get you back to where you need to be, right? It is not a solution to long-term care.
Well, it's kind of like Social Security, right?
Yeah.
Social Security is not the solution to income planning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of the vehicles out there, but you got to take advantage of it.
And if you take advantage of Medicare long-term care coverage, it's 100 days, right? People average between 2.5 to 3 years.
I mean,
that's significantly longer than 100 days.
Yeah,
100 days. That's short-term care, right? It's just a little over 3 months, really, when you're talking about original Medicare. And a lot of people don't even realize you have to have a qualifying hospitalization before that as well. So,
do you not have to go from facility to facility?
Correct. You do.
So you have to go from the hospital to the assisted living home or whatever the case may be.
Correct. And that hospital stay has to be 3 days or more.
Okay.
Right. And then you can go to that. When it comes to that, it is probably one of the real reasons that when you start looking at skilled nursing care within Medicare, it does cover up to that 100 days. If you're on original Medicare, you most likely have a Medicare supplement, which is secondary, right? And that's what a lot of people love to have because it takes care of those exposures to Medicare that people have left behind that they have to pay, right? So obviously, when it comes to that, a lot of people really nurture that plan. However, there is some potential downside to that because we're seeing premiums increase right now at alarming rates.
It's the highest inflated program out there, Bobby. I mean,
That's
healthcare
right.
is.
I implore everybody that Tim and I talk to on the financial planning side, if you're making $20,000 a year in retirement, or you're making $200,000 a year in retirement, your biggest ghost out there is healthcare costs.
Absolutely.
And so if you're not reviewing those every year, Tim and I keep up on tax law and everything that affects financial planning because it changes every handful of years.
That's right.
Tanner's changes every year, and it's guaranteed to change every year.
And why in the world would you want to, call an 800 number or work with what I call a robo-advisor on your Medicare planning? You need somebody that's local. You need somebody that knows your area, knows your pharmacies, knows everything there is to know about you. That way you get on the right type of Medicare plan. And again, we are going to make this so easy for you. All you have to do is text the word Medicare to 877-706-7526. Again, 877-706-PLAN, P-L-A-N. Text the word Medicare. You're going to get the guide sent right out to you. Then we'll set up a time for you to come and have a conversation with Tanner over the phone, via Zoom, or in person. We want to help you guys out. Again, text the word Medicare, 877-706-7526. When we come back, we're digging into some health care and the cost of health care in the Chattanooga and Knoxville areas. Stay tuned. In the U.S., it takes an average of 12.5 months for families to legally resolve all financial matters after someone passes away. As a financial advisor, I realize how delicate it can be talking about end of life and financial matters. But that is why I'm here, to help make that hard conversation about taking care of your loved ones easier to have. What if your beneficiaries need some funds sooner than 12 months to cover medical expenses, funeral costs, or monthly bills? That's where Guardian Investment Advisors has you covered. There is a financial solution where we would place a portion of your assets you're already planning on leaving to your loved ones into a guaranteed issue life insurance policy. Within 48 hours, these funds can be provided to your family with confirmation from the funeral home. I'm Gary Thurman, CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. We are your neighbors right here in the Tennessee Valley. Call us today. Your peace of mind starts with a simple conversation. Welcome back to Plan the Day on Tomorrow. My name is Gary Thurman. I am your host. The name of our company is Guardian Investment Advisors. We're located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and got a brand new office opening October 1st in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're already seeing a bunch of clients up in Knoxville. Just to let you guys know, GIAPlantoday.com, GIAPlantoday.com. Pretty good website because you can go on there. We have 4 different quizzes you can take. One is if you're retirement ready. One is how much risk do you have in your portfolio. The other one's legacy, and the other one is tax planning. So all of those are free on our website, GIAPlantoday.com. Also, you can go in there and listen to our last 10 radio shows in podcast form and see all of our TV shows. We broke 100 TV shows, gentlemen. We broke 100
awesome.
TV shows last time me and Tanner were out in Phoenix, which was a lot of fun. But again, today's show, there's nothing sexy, fun, exciting about today's show. We're not talking about growing your portfolios. We're not talking about things like that. We're really getting into some nuts and bolts, boys, of pre-retirees' fears, and that is Medicare and health care. Tanner, we talked about in the last segment, Medicare doesn't cover everything. We know that.
Right.
But Fidelity did a study a while back. Actually, it's about 2 years ago, so I think these numbers have actually increased since then. But it said a healthy 65-year-old couple, key word I just said there, healthy 65-year-old couple, can expect to spend nearly $315,000 for general health care in retirement. Talking about longevity risk, $300,000, Bobby? I mean, it's insane to me how much it costs to stay healthy out there.
Yeah.
That report is fascinating to me.
It's very fascinating, right? And here's the thing about that. That's actually a few years old for a study as well. So those numbers could be a little bit more inflated now, per se, when you start looking at what the cost could be. Now, here's a fascinating research, and I kind of wanted to pivot to a new research study that was out there by Milliman Group. They talk about the differences between actually looking and making sure you're on the right plan every single year in retirement, right?
For
Sometimes-
Medicare.
Correct.
Okay.
Or set it and forget it potentially and just let it go, right? That person that maybe sets it and forgets it, or just lets it go and doesn't even worry about maybe the increase in cost. They just keep paying the premiums.
Right.
They keep paying the copays, and they don't really look at that plan every year where you could potentially move your drug plan. You could move your Advantage plan potentially in that open enrollment every year. $395,000 for a healthy couple turning 65 is the potential cost.
Is the set it and forget it cost?
Correct. Right.
It's amazing. And Tim and I meet with people all the time that say, I've been on my Medicare plan for 5 years and I love it.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
we go, well, you could be in the right spot. But if you haven't looked at it, you need to go talk to Tanner, because that's an extra, almost $95,000 a year?
Sure. And here's the catch to this. And there's really not a catch. It's that here's the big white elephant that nobody sees in the room there. They were able to do a study of a healthy couple that actually looks at their plan. They may stay on the same plan year over year, right? But then there may be some changes that happen, like the last few years potentially, where costs have inflated. Maybe their drug plan ends up potentially changing. Maybe their Advantage plans formulary changes, and for that they're looking and they're changing plans, right? On average, $275,000 spent, so a savings of $120,000 in healthcare costs.
Whoa! The average American's retiring with $250,000.
That's already earmarked.
How are you going to retire? And when you got these type of healthcare costs, Bobby?
Yeah, Tanner, I want to put you on the spot real quick, because I haven't asked you this question. How often do you have clients that regularly change plans versus, hey, listen, you're good for 4 or 5 years and they don't change?
That's a very, very good question. It is a case-by-case basis. I have clients out there that love to have a conversation every fall to make sure that they're right. And sometimes there isn't much changes. Sometimes their lifestyle is the same. Their health is the same, their medications are the same, and the plan has been great for them, right? And that type of person, it's a very simple conversation. Hey, listen, I think you're in the right place for next year.
Would you say it's about 50-50?
Potentially, it may be a little bit less, right, with that. But when we start having disruptions in the market, we had one last year with the new $2,000 cap coming out, right? Because just like anything, Part D drug plans, right, or Part C Medicare Advantage plans, those are through private insurance companies, right? And those can change their formularies. They can change potential benefits year over year, right? They have to submit documentation. It's around this time right now. We are able to look at plans here before open enrollment. We're not able to compliantly talk about them until October the 1st with our clients or potential clients, right? Open enrollment starts October the 15th. It ends
15 through what?
December the 7th.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, maybe there's a lot of changes. Maybe plans end up, because plans may exit the market as well. They may leave this area regionally, and that person has to look at a new plan potentially. So, it all depends on the year. We did see a disruption last year. I'm banking on potentially having another busy open enrollment this year with all these changes, because there's been a lot of loss, when it comes to especially this healthcare fraud scheme that I hope we touch on here soon.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to me. And again, if you're listening out there, you'd like to get a guide on Medicare, things that are going on with Medicare, text the word Medicare, 877-706-7526. That's 877-706-PLAN, P-L-A-N. Text the word Medicare. Tanner's guide will come right out to you. Then you can sit up and have a conversation with him. Let's jump into that, Tanner. You're talking about some other changes that are coming down the pipeline. Fill us in. Let our listeners know what you're talking about.
Well, what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of disruption when it comes to the cost of healthcare, right? With Medicare. Obviously, there's no shying away from the fact that this administration is trying to find ways to potentially save on costs, right? Whether that's saving on potentially us paying in taxes to Medicare because maybe there's fraud, waste, and abuse. In our world, in the healthcare world, fraud, waste, and abuse is a big, big factor when it comes to it. What does that mean? Well, it means that potentially there's fraudulent healthcare claims that are being billed, right?
Okay.
And so
I was going to ask you what you meant by fraud.
Yeah, and the Department of Justice just released this case a few months ago that stated that they have found $14.6 billion in alleged fraud claims within the healthcare industry.
Was that billion with a B?
Billion with a B.
Wow.
Correct. It's nearly double what the current record for a healthcare fraud scheme is.
And you would think, and I'm cutting you off for a minute. You would think with us being in peak 65 season right now, that the fraud might get even greater because we have more people, 11,400 people per day for the next few years turning 65, Bobby.
That's
That's
amazing.
4.1 million people a year. So the fraud, I mean, you better watch out because
Right.
there might be some other stuff going on.
And in order to understand why we're seeing what we're seeing potentially right now, and this is just this is a microcosm, this is just one piece of it, but let's talk about Medicare supplements and how they work,
Okay.
right? If somebody's out there and you have a Medicare supplement, a lot of times people think they have a supplement, but they may have an Advantage plan. They say they have a supplement. Here's a Medicare supplement. It is secondary insurance through a private insurance company where your primary insurance is original Medicare. That's your red, white, and blue card. So when you go to the doctor, you're handing that red, white, and blue card to them. They are billing Medicare first. Medicare will pay what that Medicare approved service is, right? And then if your Medicare supplement plan also calls to pay for that, also called a Medigap plan, then it's going to pay, right? And it's a mirror. It's a ghost in the night in the sense that if Medicare pays and the supplement also calls to pay, it's bound by law to pay. It's federally regulated to pay. So it has no bearing of saying, oh, well, no, we're not going to pay because if Medicare paid, right?
Right.
So it has to by law when we're looking at that, if it calls for that plan to pay, right? So what the Department of Justice found was that in just one of the cases that about $12 billion in fraudulent claims were billed, right? Now, this is all of healthcare, so I'm not wrapping into Medicare just
Okay.
yet.
Yeah.
The Medicare portion side of just one of the cases, because there's several of them, right, that combine into that $14.6 billion. They found that an estimated $900 million were paid by Medicare supplement carriers fraudulently. When I say fraudulently, the bills, nobody received services for these, right?
Doctor just wrote up an invoice that didn't really happen and sent it off to Medicare.
Not exactly. We're not going to get into the weeds of it, but essentially what happened is some companies were purchased, durable medical equipment companies were purchased overseas. They came to the U.S. and started using AI to fraudulently bill these claims. That's just one piece of the case. But anyways, over 300 providers, other named associates, legislators potentially, were all in this plan. But $900 million were paid by private insurance companies fraudulently. So of course, let's think about this. Let's back up and let's just look at it from a third-party view. If private insurance companies know that they have just paid out $900 million in claims that were fraudulent, of course, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to try to recoup their
They're gonna
losses.
raise the rates.
Yes,
Gonna raise the
exactly.
rates.
And so we're seeing Medicare supplements raise at alarming prices now this year, percentage-wise. When we're looking at potential Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans on another case, this is just another case, $418 million in claims were paid.
That's insane. Hey, two things stand out to me. No wonder healthcare cost is going up so much. And number two, why in the world would you not want to work with someone face-to-face on your Medicare planning? I just think it's so important because of things like this. If you're working with a robo-advisor out there, you're probably not going to know all this stuff. But coming down, sitting down with Tanner, having a conversation with Tanner, it's not going to cost you anything, like he said, but time. If you would like your Medicare guide, text the word Medicare, 877-706-7526. Again, Medicare, 877-706-PLAN. We'll send that guide right out to you. Read through it. Get in touch with Tanner. Come in and have a conversation with him by phone, Zoom, or in person. Let's make sure you are set up on the right Medicare plan. Gentlemen, when we come back, I want to dig into how much it's actually costing folks to get care if they are one of those 70% of people that need some type of long-term care. We're going to dig into that when we come back on Plan Today, on tomorrow. We'll be right back.
You might not be able to retire if you haven't thought about future inflation and future taxes. When you're going through your retirement plan, are you thinking about inflation? Does your current plan have inflation built into it? The national average is about 3%. Of course, it's been really, really high the last few years, but it has come back down. But you've got to build inflation into your retirement plan because we don't want to run out of money. Another thing I stress to my clients all the time is we got to think about future taxes. Our government has one source of income, and that is taxes. And I promise you, with $34 trillion in debt, $2 more trillion being added this year in 2024, the interest only on our national debt is $1 trillion. Folks, taxes are going to go up. You've got a window of opportunity in 2024 and 2025 while taxes are still on sale. Let's start looking at maybe taking some of your taxable money to tax-free money. This is all part of the Wealth Guard planning process. We'll do this for you when we're creating an income plan. You got to think about inflation and you got to think about taxes. Give us a call today and come in and see myself and my team, and let's put this plan together for you.
Welcome back to Plan Today on Tomorrow. My name's Gary Thurman, your host. We are Guardian Investment Advisors. We're having a fun show today. Now, we've been saying over and over, this is not going to be a sexy show. We're not talking about, all the great things when it comes to financial planning. We're talking about two things that we think are vital to making sure your retirement, is living every day like a Saturday. We're talking about Medicare and healthcare. And I know it's not a subject that a lot of people like to talk about. But folks, you need to pay attention to this because longevity risk is causing these things to be more important than they've ever been before. And that's why we're here for you. Again, if you would like more information about Medicare, text the word Medicare to 877-706-7526. And I always encourage folks to go out to our website, GIAplantoday.com. Several quizzes on there you can take absolutely free. You can listen to our radio shows, watch our TV shows, all kinds of great information. So if you're in the Chattanooga or the Knoxville areas, we'd encourage you, GIAplantoday.com. Bobby, this is a big one. Well, we've really beat up Medicare on the first two segments of today's show. And if you didn't catch those, go back and watch them because Tanner is here to help you with a Medicare planning. But the number two fear in America, or actually I didn't say in America, I said in the Chattanooga and Knoxville areas when I did my research, rising healthcare costs and long-term care needs. We are living longer now. We know that. And I just pulled up where an average in-home care, most what I just said there, in your house, you're not in a facility, in Chattanooga is right at $4,200 a month. In Knoxville is $4,800 a month. Bobby, that is a ton of money.
That is a huge amount of money, and that's really the best case scenario if you need extra care, right? Everybody likes to stay in their home, and you can certainly plan for that if you sit down and make a concerted effort to do it. But man, adding $5,000, call it, to your budget a month, that just doesn't happen by accident.
No.
You got to make sure that you plan for that. That's just a stunning number. And Tanner's talked to us a whole bunch of times about, boys, buckle up because that's only going to get more expensive.
Well, and Tanner, you and I both have a personal story behind this. You with your dad, me and my grandmother. It's really what pushed me into this business because my grandmother didn't have anybody to help her plan. And, so my mother was the one, she was her long-term care provider.
Yeah, that happens a lot, unfortunately.
Which impacted us kids big time. But 70%, gentlemen, I started in this business years and years and years ago, and one of my goals was long-term care insurance. It's who I was working with at the time. And I remember 33% of us were going to need some type of long-term care back then, right? Almost 30 years ago. Up to 70% of us are going to need some type of care, Bobby. What has changed in our wonderful country we have to go from 33% to 70%?
Yeah, this is actually the silver lining in the cloud, right? Medical technology is getting better.
Yep.
People can get better medical care now than they could 5 years ago, let alone 25 years ago. And luckily, people are taking better care of themselves,
Right.
Which is great, right? And I love that both of those things are happening. But the flip side to that is you can live longer sick now. It used to be that, as soon as you got sick, a month, two, maybe a year. Now the average stay for a long-term care facility is approaching 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's
if
almost
it's
3.5.
if it's not over now. And that's because we're taking better care of ourselves and medicine's gotten so much better. But it's caused this planning opportunity that a lot of people overlook. Because if you just looked at your parents, for example, and they passed away 10, 15 years ago, you just didn't see it. So a lot of people don't know this is a great phenomenon that's happening in our country now, but you've got to have a plan for it. It's no longer an optional thing.
And Tanner, I think you and I, we might have talked about this on TV. I can't remember. We did a study where it's like there's not enough space out there for some of this. Some of these facilities they're packed.
Well, Yeah, exactly, and it also goes by region too,
That's
right? I mean, you could we have a cool, very cool tool out there that we can look at maybe the rising cost of healthcare inflation and potentially estimate what costs may look like 5, 10, 20 years down the road for various care,
Right.
whether it's in-home care, whether it's in a nursing home, whether it's short-term care. We could potentially estimate that. And they look very cool because, like, let's take Knoxville and Chattanooga, for example,
Okay.
right? Here in the Chattanooga area, over a 10 to 20 year period future pacing from right now. So we're looking, 2035 to 2045. In home care, home health care is going to rise at an alarming rate, it's showing, right? Versus Knoxville, where it's more skilled nursing care, nursing home care. And this could just be a factor. This is my personal opinion. So this is not fact whatsoever.
Okay.
But like, if you look at this region, right, we're landlocked.
We are landlocked.
We're in a valley, but we've got mountains on both sides. We can't really expand across, or people don't want to potentially expand across. So maybe those homes, we don't have ways to, have more vacancy or more beds per se, or build more in this area.
Especially to get the quality of care.
Correct.
I
Exactly.
mean, I think that's a big
Yes.
issue. Bobby, don't you tend to think that most people, God forbid, if you're one of the 70% that needs some type of long-term care, me personally, if I'm one of those 70%, I would rather be at home.
Yeah, and we talk to people about that all the time, and it's more comfortable for you. It's more comfortable for the family. You may get better care. I'm not going to say bad things about the
No,
assisted
no,
living
no, no,
facilities.
no.
A lot of them are great, but that's what everybody wants. But the issue with that is, as more and more, you mentioned peak 65 earlier, that means we're going to have peak 75 at some point, peak 85 at some point.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a huge load on these in-home care facilities for the people that send nurses out to your home. It's going to be hard to keep up. So I think that tool that you showed, at least in the Chattanooga area, shows that in-home care, the price increases for in-home care are going to outpace the cost for facilities.
A facility care,
Right.
and I can see that.
Yep.
Tanner, let's talk a minute, though. If you're watching or listening right now, you don't want to talk about long-term care. None of us want to talk about getting sick. I understand that. But let's talk about the impact that it actually has on your spouse or your children, the family. It's big, man. Emotionally, I mean, you lose work. There's so many things that go into play here.
So I don't want to age you when I ask this question.
I knew it. I knew I have to. Why do I always have to be old, Tristan?
So you like to talk about your story as well when
Right.
when your mom and you moved into your grandmother's house, right?
Right.
About what year was that estimate?
Yeah, so it was back in 86, somewhere. I was 13 years old.
Okay,
So,
so-
she
so
actually, my grandmother moved in with us.
Okay,
So mom
gotcha.
could take care of her, yes.
Got it. So she moved in with you all.
Correct.
But it also affected your mom. She had to stop her job, right?
Right.
You weren't able to go do the things you like to do
No.
with your friends.
Right.
But that was the mid 80s, right?
Right.
When you're looking at that. Nowadays, when we're looking at this, maybe your mom could have afforded at that time to do that, right? And everybody was able to get by because somebody else maybe had a pension. They were able to have
Right.
something else. Nowadays, it's really hard on the family, especially I'll use my example. My dad had to be admitted to a nursing home last August, and palliative care was the recommendation for that. He was given 1 to 3 months. We ended up getting 5 months of great quality time with him before he passed in January. However, that August to January, unfortunately, time doesn't ever ask you when that needs to happen, right? And
Yeah.
so, if in my world, that's my busy season with Medicare planning,
was your
with
busy
open enrollment, with being a dad to a 4-year-old daughter as well. And Gary and Rhonda and everybody here were so understanding with it all, but not everybody is lucky enough to have a situation like that. And maybe they can't stop work because it impacts their income.
Right.
It impacts their quality of life. Maybe they aren't able to get by. Maybe they don't own a home and they rent. And if they lose income, they're having to move now. So it could affect a lot more, not only physically in the living circumstances, but also psychologically.
Oh, big time.
For the family as
It's
well.
a big mental game.
And I've seen over time that stepping out of the workforce to care for a family member, disproportionately impacts the women out there.
Oh, huge.
Right? They're so much better at caring for people than us men are.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes they'll step away from work to care for parents. And so, the family income goes down, their earning history goes down.
Yep.
It can affect their Social Security benefit.
Oh, absolutely.
and the
Because they had to
numbers-
get out of the workforce.
That's right.
And the numbers don't lie right now. This is fact. About approximately 50% of all caregivers are non-paid caregivers, essentially family members.
Right.
Right. When it comes to that, because it impacts a lot of people.
Hey, Bobby, I'm so glad you brought that up because in my book, Plan Today on Tomorrow, one of the biggest things I talk about is long-term care. But I talk about the impact that it has on most of the women out there. Because the women do their job, they raise the kids, they get them to college, they get out in the workforce. Then, you're raising your children, and all of a sudden,
You got to do it again.
You got to do it again. You're raising more children. That's called your parents. I mean, and we're not talking bad about anybody here.
No.
It's just facts. It happens. I've seen it. We have clients right now that are using some of the tools, which we're going to talk about in the next segment, using some of the tools that we can provide for folks. If you're one of those 70%, you don't want to be a burden on your family. Bottom line, you don't want to be a burden on your spouse. You don't want to be a burden on your children. You don't want to be a burden on your grandchildren. It's just tough. And there's so many neat ways that we can plan to make sure if you're one of those 70%, that we have some coverage for you. It's fascinating, the plans. We're going to talk about it in our next segment, so make sure you stay tuned. There's some really neat tools that we have to help you if you are one of those 70%. Something I would like to offer, because we're talking about this, and Bobby brought up the women portion of this. You guys want a copy of my book? Love to give it to you. All you have to do is text the words "Plan Today," 877-706-7526. Plan Today. Text it, 877-706-PLAN. So when we come back, we're going to talk about some short-term solutions for in-home care. We're going to talk about some long-term care solutions and how we can make sure that you don't impact your family in a negative way. God forbid if you're one of the 70% that gets sick. We're going to talk about that next on Plan Today on Tomorrow. Too many people enter retirement without a plan or a tax strategy, and it costs them. Every dollar you save from taxes is a dollar that can be put to work to help secure your retirement. At Guardian Investment Advisors, we have the experience and the expertise to create a customized financial strategy that includes smart tax planning. It's not about quick fixes or magic formulas. It's about building a comprehensive, tax-efficient plan. We're offering a no-cost portfolio and tax strategy review to get you started. Schedule an appointment with us today. You'll be glad you did.
The largest increases in potential.
Welcome back to Plan Today on Tomorrow. I'm Gary Thurman, your host. We are Guardian Investment Advisors, located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're excited that you guys are joining us on YouTube or on the radio. I hope you're enjoying today's show because we're talking about some things that are vital, Medicare and healthcare. And now we're going to really dig into some solutions on that healthcare, long-term care side of things when we come back to you guys. I want to offer our website, GIAPlantoday.com, GIAPlantoday.com. It's just a good resource for you to go out, look at the quizzes that we have out there. We got quizzes on tax planning, retirement readiness quiz. We've got a risk quiz. We got a legacy quiz. All that's free to you. You can also check out our radio show and see our TV shows right there on the website. Again, GIAPlantoday.com. If you've been listening to the show and didn't catch the number for that Medicare guide, text the word Medicare, 877-706-7526. And we just offered my book, Plan Today on Tomorrow. Simply text the words Plan Today, 877-706-7526. Bobby, let's jump in here. We were talking about, Tanner's really gave us some great insights on Medicare today. It doesn't cover everything. We just talked about 70% of us, we're going to need some type of long-term care and how most people want to be taken care of in their home. But, Bobby, I'm 67. My wife is 66. And I just don't think we can afford long-term care insurance.
You're probably right.
You're probably
Gary.
not going to get approved.
Yeah, long-term care insurance in its old form, in my opinion, is kind of becoming a dinosaur.
It is.
You know all the numbers on this because you did it for so long. There used to be hundreds of companies that wrote these traditional long-term care policies. Now there's what?
There's
5?
about 5, and I had about 40 when I started in this business that I could shop from. Now there's about 5 solid ones out there.
And that's incredible. And they're trying to get out of that business,
They are.
a lot of them. And the way that looks like is that you've been holding on to a traditional long-term care insurance policy, awesome. I'm glad you did that planning back in the day. But you're probably some of the folks that we see often coming in and saying, I got my premium notice, and they're going to raise it by double-digit percentages. You know,
Yeah.
we've seen 22, 25%. And you're just kind of stuck, right? I've been paying on this for a couple decades. I can't afford to keep paying it. I can't afford not to pay it. What do I do? And the marketplace has really gotten smart to those issues and have some really cool solutions nowadays.
Yeah, one of our newest clients, sent us some information, and they sent us the letter they got from their company. And Bobby, they wasn't asking them to reduce benefits or anything. They were just asking them, saying, here's money. We're gonna cash you out of this thing. I did the math, and I'm not going to give specific numbers, but this lady had put in well over $100,000 into this long-term care plan if she needed it. They were offering her like $40,000 lump sum to get out of it.
That's incredible, isn't it?
It's insane. It's almost not justified. I mean, I hate to say that, but I get where these companies are coming from. They are losing money, and we just talked about Peak 65. They're going to lose even more money.
That's what
But
they're trying to get out.
honor that contract and try to take care of these people. But rising healthcare costs, we just talked about it. It's one of the number one fears of all pre-retirees in Chattanooga and Knoxville is how am I going to afford these inflated healthcare costs moving down the pipeline?
Yeah, and it's a really cool time to be planning for this, in my opinion. Fixed indexed annuities have been around for a while.
They have.
Annuities have been around for a long time.
Forever.
But now they're trying to take some of these long-term care benefits that would traditionally be taken care of with those old policies and kind of make a hybrid out of them. And that can look a couple different ways, Gary, in a fixed indexed annuity. Sometimes, you have these guaranteed income payouts, which is why a lot of people get fixed indexed annuities. You have a stream of income for the rest of your life. You can't outlive. The checks are going to show up, or the ACHs are going to show up in your account every month. A lot of companies now are saying, listen, Gary, if you've got a fixed indexed annuity and you've got $20,000 a year in guaranteed income, God forbid you get sick. If you get sick, some of these companies will say, Gary, we'll give you up to 5 years of double income.
So
now-
$40,000.
Now all of a sudden your $20,000 of guaranteed income has turned to $40,000 of guaranteed income up to 5 years. The neat thing about this and what makes it stand out, there's a handful of things over traditional long-term care insurance is you don't need to be in a home.
Right.
You can stay at your home and get this benefit. There's no medical underwriting for a lot of these programs because it's not medical insurance. It's a fixed indexed annuity. So all the actuaries care about at the insurance companies on the FIA side is your age most of the time.
Sure.
And your sex, of course.
Yeah,
right?
of course,
Because
yeah.
that kind of works hand in hand. But you can get these benefits if you fail 2 activities of daily living, right? The old trigger used to be you go into a home. Now it's if you get a doctor's note that says, I can't feed myself, I can't get out of bed, I can't take my medicine.
Right.
And the money gets paid directly to
To
you.
you. You use it for anything you want.
Put a ramp on the house,
Yeah.
redo a bathroom, get a van, pay for people to come in and help care for you. It's amazing.
It's cool to me. Can I talk about another fixed index annuity that I think is really cool for a long-term care benefit right now?
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this. Do
It is, because one of our companies did something really, really cool because instead of giving you that double income, this is not an income-driven product. It's just a way to grow your money safely, right? And you have free withdrawals you can take out of it, all of these bells and whistles. But if you fail 2 of your ADLs with this particular company, they're just going to send you all your money back.
Yeah.
They're just going to send you your money back. No questions asked, no penalties, no surrender charges. What I love about this particular program, based on your age, they're giving you this large cash bonus into your product right off the bat. Day one, you can get anywhere from an 18 to 22.5% bonus based on your age. That goes into your account day one. You got a 1-year waiting period. That's it. If you get sick in 367 days, you can take all that money out, your bonus, any interest gain, anything to help pay for your care, Bobby. That's brilliant.
It's great.
It's
it's
brilliant.
a really, really good health savings account.
It is. That's a good way to look
and
at it.
Bobby, let me ask you this question. Gary, you can chime in too with this because this is a question from the health insurance side of things, right? Because like when it comes to that side, you're the expert, so I'm asking this for all the listeners out there too that are thinking about this. Let's say you have that income product that doubles or potentially triples for long-term care needs, right? Is it kind of like health insurance where the plans can potentially change in the future depending on the market that you're in, whether new laws come into place or new healthcare? Like, is it potentially subject to change?
That's a good point, and I would say once you are in that contract,
Right.
You're in the
the
contract.
insurance company is obligated and guaranteed
That's right.
to do what it said in that contract. So
Correct.
do we have to review it every year like you do with Medicare?
Right.
No, the benefits you
Yeah.
signed up for are there.
Oh, they're there.
Now, the cool thing about it is as the landscape changes, the insurance companies have to change too. So they may be putting out products with different bells and whistles or tweak it. So you need to stay up to date on that.
Right.
But it's not something you have to think about every year. Am I still covered for X and Y? You know you have that coverage, and it's triggered oftentimes by two ADLs.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
that simple.
It's that simple. And Tanner, I know we only got a few minutes left here, but really, really quick, you provided a product for my mother. Now, guys, let's talk about my mother could not qualify for long-term care insurance, right? My mother doesn't have the assets to do asset-based long-term care, which I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. But you were able to set her up on a short-term in-home health care plan that's so affordable and pays amazing benefits.
Yeah, it's a really cool product. It truly is a in-home care, short-term care type of plan, right? It is a home health care product. That's the beauty of it. Why is it impactful and how is it affordable, right? Well, it's going to, once you start to fail 2 of 6 ADLs, right? It will pay whatever plan you choose, cash benefits directly to you. Doesn't pay it to anybody else or to providers, to you,
Right.
for you to spend on your home health care needs, right? It's going to pay up to 365 days within a period. So it's a year of coverage whenever you trigger that, right? It's going to stop paying after that year. But what does that year do? Well, it bridges the gap potentially
Absolutely.
for long-term care because
Absolutely.
maybe you need the home health care, but eventually you have to go to a home or you have to have somebody coming in full-time potentially. All this is going to do is it's going to help bridge the gap and mitigate the cost because maybe you don't have enough money to invest into a asset-based long-term care plan.
And if you have traditional long-term care coverage or one of these asset-based options, the more you put off taking those long-term care benefits,
Right.
obviously the longer it lasts.
Correct.
That's right.
So if you can
Yeah.
spot yourself a year of care
That'd be nice,
before it
wouldn't it?
kicks in, it's amazing.
And here's the beauty of this. This has a very, very cool feature to it. It has a prescription drug reimbursement tool to it that if you take medications, generics or brand, every month you can get reimbursed
Reimburse for that money.
a
you're spending.
fixed number that they set per it, and you can get reimbursed for that. Sometimes that takes care of the plan's cost potentially.
love it.
And that's
every
not
month.
ADL driven though, right?
No.
That's a
No.
benefit that starts day one.
Correct.
benefit.
Yeah, I
you-
wanted one of these, Tanner. And I
Yeah.
said that benefit.
Unfortunately, you're not old enough.
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
I'm going to come knocking on the door on my birthday to come get it.
But
That's
because
right.
It's such a
good
cool
stuff.
way to leverage a plan that potentially you may not even have. Once you get that reimbursement per month for your medication, you may not even have a cost every month because
Right.
you may break even. You may
Yeah.
make
Today.
money,
Yeah.
right?
If you're interested in this short-term guide, guys, just call Tanner directly, 423-710-9199, 423-710-9199. You can get that brochure right out to them. I think we just had somebody yesterday ask for it from
Yeah.
our show we did
And-
a few weeks ago.
And call us. We'll give you a quote right on the spot for it. It's super simple. The application process super simple. So instead of the guide, we can talk about it and let's get you a quote.
Yeah, so if you're someone out there and you're like, guys, I'm limited on my income. I'm only making so much a month. I can't do asset-based long-term care. I can't do one of these fixed index annuities that Bobby was talking about. This is a perfect solution for you. So Tanner can send that right out to you, 423-710-9199. I would also encourage you, though, to come in and talk to Tim and Bobby about asset-based long-term care. It's where we can actually take an asset. Maybe it's just sitting at the bank, collecting cobwebs. We can actually put that into a program for you and your spouse and triple your benefit day one for long-term care insurance.
if you need it, the money
If
does not
you need it.
disappear.
And here's the best part. If you don't need it, pass it to your kids or your church or whomever you want to. But, guys, great show today on Medicare. Again, Medicare Guide, 877-706-7526. Text Medicare, 877-706-7526. And if you'd like a copy of my book, text PLAN today, 877-706-PLAN, PLAN. Thank you guys so much for joining us on Plan Today. On tomorrow, we'll talk to you next week.